In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
In a college football season full of firsts, we have another one. The first player in Indiana history to win the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious college football individual award, is going to Bloomington. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner. Welcome here to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And Patrick, I think a lot of the intrigue for the Heisman Trophy, of course, there's a lot of intrigue, going into the game. But because of what we've seen from the betting lines and everything else, it was kind of knew that Mendoza was going to win this. And you had those odds up all last week. But now that he is the official guy, what was your overall takes?
I think this is the first year that, in my recent memory, that there was no clear-cut winner up until like the last 2 weeks of the season. I felt like last year it was always going to be Travis Hunter, and then the year before that it was always going to be Jaden Daniels. So this was definitely a weird year, but that's not to diminish anything from Fernando Mendoza, because he definitely did deserve it.
Sure.
Based on the season that he had, and I know some people were like, well, and me included, I was like, well, Diego Pavia does have the stats, but overall, when you lead your team to a 13-0 regular season record, a conference title, and the #1 overall seed in the college football playoff, it's hard to give it to someone other than the quarterback on that team, and he had a pretty good year.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing when you look at Mendoza, because when you compare the stats, I mean, they're really not too different. But taking a look here specifically to Fernando Mendoza, threw for nearly 3,000 yards, those 33 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions on the entire year, and then was able to do it on the ground as well with about 240 yards and 6 touchdowns there as well. But when you look at both Mendoza and Diego Pavia, I think the biggest thing to me is, like you said, the results of the team were just almost impossible to ignore. And the fact that Indiana is the #1 seed, they won the Big Ten over a team that was dominant all year long. Now you can make an argument that Diego Pavia had to go through a harder stretch to get where he got than Fernando Mendoza did to get where he got. You can make a lot of those, comparisons, but I do think I didn't vote. Now that it's over, we can say who we voted for. I'm a Heisman voter. I didn't vote for Fernando Mendoza in the #1 spot. I did for the #2 spot. Basically, had the order in reverse. It was Diego Pavia and then Fernando Mendoza. But I was doing it based on what he had to go through. He being the quarterback for the Vanderbilt Commodores, and so I'm not upset by this at all. And I think that he obviously earned it and deserved it. And I did think that a Big Ten championship went a long way to that.
Look, I think there's 3 things that have to go into it. It's 1, the stats, and Pavia had the stats over Fernando Mendoza. But 2, it's also the moment, and in my opinion, Fernando Mendoza had more Heisman moments than Diego Pavia did. You look at the Penn State game, whether you want to say that was all on Omar Cooper and not on Fernando Mendoza. I actually kind of had to go back and rewatch that play before the Heisman ceremony, because I was like, how good actually was this play? And I saw he took hits from both sides while he was releasing the ball, and then Omar Cooper made probably the greatest catch of the season.
Of the year,
I'm almost forgetting about the Miami catch to begin the year. I do not remember his name, but I remember that catch against Notre Dame, and then also the story. And Diego Pavia had a great story going from JUCO all the way up to Division I, but the story with Fernando Mendoza, 0 offers, going back to high school. He didn't have a great year at Cal last year. I was a little bit, skeptical when he entered the transfer portal. I was like, okay, I'm not sure why we're giving him the #1 rated quarterback in the portal right now, and then Indiana picked him up. I was like, okay, can he do what Curtis Rourke just did? And we'll have to see. And I mean, you could easily make the argument that he's better than Curtis Rourke was last year. But I mean, it was just a great story. And I don't know if you read the message that his mom, that little video. That. I'd recommend you go and watch it, because it's a really nice story there, and it was a really nice message from his mom that's unfortunately dealing with MS, multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, and like you said, he's just a guy that you just root for. He just feels like that kind of guy. I remember watching, it was after the Penn State game, and it was him and his wide receiver who made the incredible catch, and Cooper, and there was such a moment for him that he understood. Yes, he's the quarterback for the team; he gets all the love, but he was just like, hey, I'm nothing without all these guys. And for a quarterback to say that, a lot of quarterbacks just say it, and it's just kind of just tongue in cheek, so to speak. Not Pavia, but Mendoza, when he says it, you can tell it's real. You can tell it's genuine. And I think in a way that almost is complete opposite of Pavia. Pavia kind of looks like he's like hunting the spotlight. And I think that you might need that at Vanderbilt to be able to hunt that spotlight. But Mendoza, it just felt, it was just he's a refreshing kid to root for, so to speak, in a lot of the same ways that kind of Cam Ward was last year.
Did you see what Cignetti said to him?
No.
Right after he was named winner? He said, like, great job, bro. Or
something really?
like that. He was just, and then he gave another one of those elite, not post-game interviews, but after his Heisman acceptance speech. And, I mean, Fernando Mendoza is just one of those guys that's just, he's so goofy in a way.
Yeah.
He's like that goofy guy that you would need in, like, a glue guy. But it would be very disrespectful to call him a glue guy because he's insanely good.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But he's just one of those guys that, like, you're on a long flight across the country, and I'm sure he had to deal with that a lot at Cal last year in the first year in the ACC. Mm-hmm. And he's just a guy that's like the class clown.
Right.
But he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those great leaders. And a part of being a good leader is you got to keep your guys loose, especially in tense situations. And that's what he's been doing all year.
Right. He certainly has. And it's been a lot of fun to watch. On the other side of this, we'll take a look at the voting here and the overall votes. Because one of the things we talked about last week with Corey Curtis is that he thought Diego Pavia might have more first-place votes, and Mendoza would have more overall votes. It turned out Mendoza won both categories.
By a lot.
By a lot. And I think a lot of people and I think he might have won a few hundred more votes because of what he was able to do in Conference Championship Week. In fact, that he was on the field and nobody else was. So the other outside of Julian Sayin, but you've said it a bunch of times, or you can make an argument Julian Sayin's not even the best player on his own offense, on his own offensive unit. No disrespect to the kid, he's obviously done his job and he's done great.
But here's the thing: is I don't mean to cut you off.
No,
on this list, he is the most likely to come back. So he's going to have another opportunity. I know Jeremiah Love keeps on hinting about, I might come back.
No, he's
I
not,
might. No, there's no way.
No.
Then obviously Mendoza's probably going to be the number one pick in the draft. Pavia already said he's going to fight the lawsuit to get another year of eligibility, but it's not for him. It's for everyone else.
Yeah.
He's not coming back. So, I mean, Julian Sayin's going to be back here. And I don't know if you saw the press conference before the little breakout sessions
before the announcement.
Yeah, there was a video that was circulating around social media where everyone was around Diego Pavia, everyone was around Fernando Mendoza, and there was one person talking to Julian Sayin. So I mean, I feel bad. I've kind of been ripping on him in a way where he's like, he's not even the best player on his own team, but he's gonna have a few years to prove himself.
And I think that was in the back of a lot of people's heads that Julian Sayin has time. Yeah, he's the quarterback of. At that time, it was the number one team in the nation until they lost to Indiana. But there does feel a bit of like, hey, the wave is just kind of moving in Mendoza's way and Pavia's way going into everything. It just felt like Sam was going to be on the outside looking in, and the fact that he's an Ohio State quarterback and like you said, no disrespect to the kid, but it seems like you're tailor-made. Right.
Your time's coming. It wasn't this year. You did great things. You're going to break Bo Nix's completion record in the regular season. So, I mean, there is that. But it just wasn't your year. It was just a year where it was a great stepping stone for you.
Yes.
I assume that he's going to be back at Ohio State next year. Who knows about Jeremiah Smith and everyone else.
Right.
I know they're probably going to lose Caleb Downs to the NFL. But you're going to have the same opportunity next year, 100%. And then maybe even an opportunity the year after. But Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman after the Penn State game, it feels like, in everybody's mind.
Yep.
And I know Gus Johnson made the call, give him the Heisman right now. And I think some voters were like, I might as well give him the Heisman right now.
Right. And a nice push from Diego Pavia at the very end to be able to make it somewhat competitive. But as you said, kind of a long shot, especially after what happened there in the Big Ten Championship game. Speaking of that Big Ten Championship game, we heard from Fernando Mendoza about that game mean, we saw it in the post game, and maybe the moment, maybe the game that ended up winning the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, whether people liked it or not, it was my authentic and true self. I honestly just blacked out. I blacked out, and blacked out in a good way, which I just saw the camera, saw the microphone. I was so happy because something we've been talking about the entire year, the Big Ten Championship. We do players of the game, and we had the Big Ten Championship one left open, and that's only if you win the game. And we've been manifesting this for a long time. However, now with the Big Ten Championship under our belt, we're not the hunter anymore. We're the hunted, although we still have that hunter mindset, and we look forward to the college football playoff.
Thanks to our very own Simone Eli being able to get the best out of him. And she's so good with this. She's so good at that overall, being able to get those moments out of those players. And you mentioned it with Mendoza. And for him to have that observation of, hey, we go from one to the other. He understands now. Indiana was chasing for the longest time. They were chasing relevance in college football. Now they are the standard. I know they haven't hoisted a championship trophy yet, but they're the number one team with the Heisman Trophy and in the Big Ten Championship. Probably right now, the better, I'm using that in air quotes, better conference because they have the last two national championships and they have the number one team and the number two team right now. And so he understands that, hey, everybody's going to be gunning for us, and it'll start with the winner of the Alabama-Oklahoma game.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it towards the end, he might not have been exactly the clear Heisman winner leading up to the final announcement. But what I can say is, looking at it after the fact and the events that transpired after the announcement, he was definitely the clear Heisman winner, because this is an SEC show, but we have to be objective here.
For sure.
This was one of the most embarrassing meltdowns I've ever seen from any person in any sport.
Yeah, this was bad. It was bad. For those that don't have the context, he posted on Instagram, F the voters.
But family for life,
Right. And
Look,
and I don't know how much of that was just the embarrassment of, he kept promoting himself and pushing himself, and I guess he thought he was probably a little bit closer.
He's probably walking around like this. Look, I've been a supporter of Diego Pavia.
Same,
I was on the Diego Pavia hype train, but now I don't know if I really can be anymore, because not only is this embarrassing to yourself and embarrassing to Vanderbilt football for your actions, this also probably tanks your draft stock.
Yes.
Because you're fighting to get into the NFL.
Right.
There's already people saying that you should be in the Canadian Football League instead of the NFL, or maybe you're going to be on the practice squad and then in the XFL someday.
Right.
All this is going to do is probably make you a 5th-round draft pick, 6th-round draft pick, even Mr. Irrelevant just for jokes. I mean, this is just embarrassing at one of the most prestigious events in the most prestigious award in all of college sports for you to go off and just say that after the fact. And you just talked with some Heisman voters that day before, including not RG3, Cam Newton. You literally just talked to him the day before, and you're just basically like saying in his face, like, I'm mad at you, and it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, it was, and I think that with Pavia, if you just put everything on its surface out there, the fact that he is a quarterback at Vanderbilt, by the way, and came from New Mexico State, no major offers, and takes Vanderbilt to 10 wins on the season, you would think, okay, that's America's sweetheart. Everybody's dying for that story to end successfully. And I think he's making more enemies, so to speak, than he is allies. And like you said, it's not like he's 6'4", 200-something pounds, and a prototype NFL guy. We are seeing the reminiscences of what we see with tiny quarterbacks, small quarterbacks. They would be like, oh, well, he's a good college quarterback, and that's about it. Like, so he's not only fighting to get on a roster, but now he's not doing himself any favors by acting this way after the Heisman.
No, I mean, it was an embarrassment to even post that on social media. The apology was also a little bit embarrassing, and someone always said, don't do something that you'll then apologize for.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense. But then, I mean, maybe Tennessee fans have been warning us all year long, Sam Granville, about the whole his brother situation, getting arrested a couple times. Like, it's just embarrassing to be basically the face of, I don't want to say a franchise because it's not the NFL, basically the face of a university right now that's trying to become relevant in something not named baseball.
Right.
And you just go and just handle yourself like that on a national stage.
Yep.
it's just embarrassing.
Yeah, it really is, and it's like, dude, you have to realize, you have to read the room. You're still Diego Pavia. You're still a undersized quarterback at a also ran football program. I know he brought him up this year, but when you list them side by side, the numbers are comparable, obviously, because, and like I said, obviously, even with those 2 losses, played really well against Texas, had those turnovers against Alabama. And so, I mean, even in the losses, they were games that were winnable. They weren't, obviously the Texas game was a blowout before they made it a 3-point game late. But 27 passing touchdowns, the 9 rushing touchdowns. There you see the QBRs they're right there with each other. This is the reason why, if you look at these numbers, this is the reason why I voted for Pavia over Mendoza, because I consider it. Yes, it goes to the best player in college football, but I also do a sliver of how valuable are you to your team, and he was the most valuable player. I know it's not the most valuable award. He was the most valuable player out of anybody to his football team, and so it was rough to see that on the back end. Like it felt like I want to say what Signetti said. Come on, bro. Like just like sincerely, like do better.
Yeah, it's just again an embarrassment to a university that is pretty, in my opinion, Vanderbilt's a prestigious university for academics.
Yes, yeah.
And I know the Vandy boys, aka the baseball team, has been prestigious in their own right, and they've held national relevance for the last few years now.
Yeah.
I'd say since the turn of the century. I believe they have 2 national championships.
I think so. Yeah. They play there in Omaha every year.
Yeah, I know. It's like that program is great. The basketball program, which we'll talk about with Corey Curtis a little bit later, and I'll be interested to hear his take on the whole Pavia situation.
Right.
The Vanderbilt men's basketball program's at 10-0. They had I don't know what you want to make of that win over Central Arkansas. It's like 11 points.
Right.
And
didn't look good.
And now you had Diego Pavia, which I feel bad for Clark Lee. Like the person I feel the most bad about is Clark Lee, because he holds himself with such high character,
dignity,
such great dignity, always down to earth. I know he was fighting for his team there for a little bit. Some people kind of clowned him in a way for trying to play that 13th game, but you got to respect a guy that's going to fight for his team.
100%.
And he would never ever post anything about bashing the committee in the way that Diego Pavia did. So it's just been, I feel so bad for him. I'm sure he had a stern talking to Diego Pavia about, because now you just put Vanderbilt in such a terrible light that it's an embarrassing end to a storybook season for the program,
which should be an amazing storybook season for this program. You mentioned Corey Curtis. He'll be on the show coming up today. He and also Roger Wallace. Lots to talk about on the court with Texas men's and women's basketball. We'll talk with Corey, as you said, about basketball and about football as Vandy lines up for their bowl game. Indiana's Mendoza, that Heisman Trophy win. We will break that down with our guest today. Also talking about DJ Lagway. He is out. However, another big SEC quarterback will remain put, as Sellers will stay at South Carolina. We'll talk that. Texas and UConn hit the court, and we'll talk a little bit more about this Diego Pavia situation, as Vanderbilt once again is now kind of explaining the actions of their QB1 just ahead of their bowl game and the upcoming draft. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. The fun continues after the break. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus here, breaking it on everything on a Monday ahead of the college football playoff a little bit later on this week. 2 SEC teams will open up play coming up on Friday, Alabama and Oklahoma, for the right to go to the second round and play the number 1 team there in the country. We'll break that down in a little bit. But first, teams are not only solidifying their coaching staffs, but also their rosters for next season. Some good news for South Carolina in a program that could have used it, because things kind of went off the rails after a really strong end to the season before. They had playoff and maybe championship aspirations going into this year. But the quarterback that was on the team last year, and we thought, maybe speculated, that he might go into the portal and search elsewhere. Lenore Sellers deciding to stay.
Yeah, and I think this is a huge win for Shane Beamer, because it feels like just a few weeks ago we were talking about, hey, Miami might be making a push for this guy, since, you know, they had Cam Ward last year. He goes number 1 overall. Then they go in the portal. They get Carson back over from Georgia. He's led them to Miami's first college football playoff appearance since it turned to the college football playoff, and maybe potentially seeing Lenore Sellers go all the way down to Miami next year. But no, this is the weirdest part about this whole thing is the release came out and it said agreed to a deal. So that's just today's world of college football. It still blows my mind that we're using the term agree to a deal in college sports.
I don't know if I'll ever get used to it. I don't know if I'll ever get used to it.
I don't think so either. Yeah. It seems like a few times, you know, it's just like this guy intends to stay. This guy is transferring to this school. But occasionally we'll hear the agrees to a deal with blah, blah, blah. And sometimes we'll get the numbers. I don't. Yeah. It's like very seldom that we actually do get the numbers on what it is. But if you go back to this past offseason, we were talking about Lenore Sellers was getting tampered with by other SEC programs, reportedly giving him almost $5 million, I believe, to leave Columbia there. But he stayed. It wasn't a good year by any means for South Carolina, but I think him staying at least somewhat cools Shane Beamer's name a little bit off the hot seat.
Yeah, I think so too. And this was a year of turmoil for the offense, so much so they had to fire their offensive coordinator in the middle of the year. Mike Shula ended up getting fired. You see the overall record. They went 4-8, won just 1 game in SEC play. The offense was just really just struggled all year long. And I know that Lenore Sellers missed a game because of a concussion, but even still, they were 14th in the SEC under 23 points per game. There you see the rushing yards per game as well, second to last in the league. But to me, this is a South Carolina team that could, like we said, could not only use some good news, but also understanding where they are, it gives them. I'm trying to think of an offense that really had a big boost this year because their quarterback came back. Ty Simpson comes to mind, even though he wasn't a starter from a year ago. I don't want to compare it to Garrett Nussmeier because obviously that the wheels fell off there. Maybe like a Gunnar Stockton, like a guy that came in, had a really good season, and then going into the next year, he understands, number one, I'm the man. He has whatever money or whatever they agreed upon, and then now, with the new offensive coordinator there in Kendall Browse, he can actually, make that transition, make that jump from one level to the next and try to get that offense going.
Yeah, the only quarterback I could maybe think about is Baron Morton over at Texas Tech, because when you look at quarterbacks that are in the college football playoff right now, Mendoza transfers, Sayans first year, Stockton got 1 start last year in the bowl game, in the bowl game, and then number 4 is Texas Tech, Oregon. Dante Moore, he didn't start last year. It's Dylan Gabriel. You can go down the list. I mean, everyone is basically starting a new quarterback or went in the transfer portal and got a new guy. So, it is interesting. That's, again, this type of college athletics. But I think if you're South Carolina, you've got your quarterback back. But when I look at this season and where things went wrong, it's hard to look past that offensive line.
Yes.
And I know Shane Beamer went ahead. They fired the offensive line coach, and then they went ahead and fired Mike Shula just to try to jumpstart something. And it worked for a little bit in the Texas A&M game. You could easily make the argument that was more Marcel Reed just basically giving the Gamecocks short field.
With the interceptions.
In the first half of the interceptions and all the turnovers and everything. But you have to start in the portal or recruiting. I'd have to take a closer look at their 2026 class when looking at the offensive linemen. But you just have to start there. And honestly, I think that's where the run game is going to benefit from in the long run. But this year was just an embarrassment on that front, because I'm going to pull this graphic back up, and I want to pay attention to those last 3 stats there. He had 149 carries. This is a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
And he only had 270 rush yards.
Yeah.
That's not good. And that's just indicative of how bad the offensive line played.
Yes.
It blows my mind that a mobile quarterback carries the ball 149 times and only has 270 rush yards.
270 yards. Right. And you put up the rushing numbers there overall for the team. So it wasn't like the running backs were getting any production either. And so you would think that if Shane Beamer is going to have to address anything, now that the quarterback situation has been addressed, the one thing they will have to look into is developing the offensive line, whether it is getting guys to the portal or whether it is, developing the guys that they have there right there on their roster, because they cannot have this kind of year again and Beamer not now jump on the hot seat.
Yeah, and South Carolina has got their quarterback situation solved. Florida is going to have to find her.
Yep.
Because DJ Lagway has entered the transfer portal this morning. He posted it on Instagram, and it was a rough year. Let's just be honest for DJ Lagway. The interceptions were a major problem. I think he had a 13-10 touchdown to interception ratio.
Right.
16-14. And that's just not going to win you games in the SEC. But I almost feel like it was more of a fit problem. And I'd be interested to see. I'd be interested to get your take on where you think he might go, because I have one that really sticks out to me personally.
Okay, he's a Texas guy, so I was thinking some of those Texas schools, but also it feels like Miami's kind of been a rehab project for a lot of transfer quarterbacks, and did so with Cam Ward, did so this past year with Carson Beck, and you mentioned it earlier. Just that seems to be Mario Cristobal's MO is to go there. And then you think about teams that are losing their starting quarterback. I don't know who the backup is in Indiana, but
it's Mendoza's younger brother.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes. So I would think that if there's any marquee programs that want a guy that is losing their quarterback to the NFL draft, he could be a nice placement there. But just off the cuff, if he wants to stay in the state of Florida, Miami could be a nice fit.
Here's what I have 2 schools, and he would be a huge boost for both of these schools.
Okay.
Number 1, and what I think is the strongest fit for him, is Dabo Swinney finally uses the transfer portal. If you go back to DJ Lagway's recruitment back in high school, it was down to Clemson and Florida, and Dabo made one final push at Lagway to try and get him to switch over from Florida, and it just didn't work.
Right.
You got to remember, Cade Klubnik's gone after this
That's
year,
right.
and Clemson's going to need a guy.
Yeah.
I don't think you can rely on your backup there. I mean, I know he played 1 game this year.
Right.
I didn't think he looked that bad.
No, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't what Lagway could provide from a talent standpoint.
The other school, you brought up Texas. This would be a major boost for Dave Aranda over at Baylor.
Oh,
and
Baylor,
I think he's only where he's from is 2 hours away from.
I was gonna say he's from a little town, Willis.
Yes,
I think
Willis.
it's Willis. Yeah.
Dave Aranda's. We know right now his seat is not on fire yet. He's going to be there coaching Baylor next year.
Yeah.
But this is a great opportunity for Dave Aranda to finally find some stability at the quarterback position. I know Sawyer Robertson had a great year this year, but if you can go from Sawyer Robertson over to DJ Lagway in a Big 12 that I don't know what the Big 12 is going to look like next year,
right.
But you have a pretty good opportunity to get Baylor back on the map.
And I just pulled this up because I know Sawyer Robertson was in the top 5 in yards, second in the country in yards last year, 3,600 yards. And like you said, if you can go back closer to home and
why wouldn't you do that?
Offense, that is honestly, Baylor to me. Now that you say it, Baylor sounds like a picture-perfect example.
I still think it's Clemson first and then Baylor, because Clemson is more in dire need than Baylor is, because Clemson this year was just I don't know what this year was.
Right.
I just don't.
And it's crazy that we haven't really mentioned any SEC schools. Like it's because
Lane Kiffin.
There's a few there's a few possibilities within the SEC.
Hey, I will say this: Lane Kiffin reposted DJ Lagway's portal post today.
Oh,
so,
really?
I don't know if the trolling's just going back on.
Like,
Lane can't help himself but troll everyone in Gainesville.
Yeah, that's such a Lane thing to do for sure. It should be a really interesting follow as DJ Lagway for now in the transfer portal, looking for a new home in 2026. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Austin, Texas, and catch up with our good friend Roger Wallace. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, talking a lot of college basketball this week as we've had a really great set of games to end off last week. Some good games coming up this week as well, just ahead of the college football playoff. Always happy to have our friend on the show, Roger Wallace. And Roger, you're well connected to the Texas football program and basketball program. We will start with basketball because to end the week last week, we had a nice game as Texas played UConn. They were a big dog going into it as far as Vegas goes, but they kept it competitive there. What did you see from the Longhorns as they play one of the upper crust of college basketball?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of where they are right now, is that you mentioned they kept it within 10 points and actually had it down to 5 inside of 4 minutes to go. So that's an improvement over the opener against Duke, where it got away from them early in the second half. But still, Sean Miller, I think, is just frustrated with a lot of different parts of this team that he said was a little bit better on Friday against UConn. They fouled too much defense, some breakdowns as well. And they've got a team, when they're good, they score a lot, and they didn't score a lot against UConn, but they did play them tough. And now, that was their last marquee non-conference game before they start SEC play. So I would still qualify or label Texas as a bit of a mystery, and I think they'll probably win some games in the conference where it will surprise some people because they can score. But I think it's going to be a grind for them through this SEC schedule unless we see some noticeable improvement and consistency from this team. But we'll see. They played two big ones against Duke and UConn, both away from home. They played the game in Hawaii. They beat NC State. That was a good win after losing Arizona State. And then a bunch of nondescript non-conference games. So we'll see how this looks going forward.
Roger, we talked with Noah Gross on Friday about trying to slow down the play of solo ball. He had a nice game against Florida at Madison Square Garden on Tuesday. What did you make of Texas's defense against the UConn guard?
A little bit better. I mean, you look at the final score and he hit that crazy three with the shot clock winding down that was kind of a dagger. But I thought they played pretty well throughout the game defensively. When it looked like UConn might run away and hide, they went on a run. Texas got back in it. They can make shots, guys, and that's what is going to keep them in ball games. Jordan Pope, when he gets going, he can make some shots. Obviously, Dalen Swain's got a pretty well-rounded offensive game. Mark's a little bit inconsistent, but I think they were better. I think they were competitive. I think they made UConn work for that win. And you hate to put that as a check mark in the success box, but I think they made the number 5 team in the country, coming off some really big wins, work for about 38 minutes to close out in a very impressive environment on Friday night in Hartford.
Absolutely. We'll hear from Sean Miller in just a moment, but first, from the non-conference part of the schedule, I know it's so hard when there's a new coach and a lot of new players and they're gelling, but what do you feel is Sean Miller's take so far, whether he's verbalized that to you personally or just watching him from afar with this basketball team here in the non-conference part of the schedule before they get to some familiar opponents in the SEC?
Well, the first part is fouling, and that usually means defense. They're not in the right spot. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, but they just, they didn't do that against UConn. That was one of the things he was happy about, is they didn't send UConn to the line 30 times. Yeah. In fact, they had a big number in the plus category as far as free throws attempted compared to Utah. And then they've just had some defensive breakdowns offensively. Vokatitis, they want to work through the big guy, but he's a little bit inconsistent. He's got turnover issues. When he gets the ball, especially when he hangs on to the ball, he's got to make quick decisions. But I think Sean Miller came away from the game Friday night thinking, okay, I can go to battle with the team that played tonight maybe a little bit more confidently than some of the other games. The Virginia game was so bad that thing was hanging around, and at least they played really competitively against a UConn team that most people would agree is better than Virginia.
First-year head coach Sean Miller at the podium after their game against the Huskies.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you call learning to win. Being a group that has to be able to break through that final barrier and be able to do things like make free throws under pressure, defend for 40 minutes, not 25 or 20, be able to defend without fouling. Tonight was the best we've done in a long time of being able to defend without fouling. I think everybody on our team felt it, and I think that's a big step in the right direction as well.
Roger, I know it's got to be tough, dropping these close games, sometimes losing by a lot, sometimes, having him beat close, but just remember, it always could be worse. You could follow the Syracuse Orange that lost to Hofstra. Have you ever heard of Hofstra?
I have. You know who Texas is playing tomorrow night?
Who?
Playing Lemoyne.
Lemoyne, yes.
Yeah.
Out of Syracuse.
That's right.
Right.
This is like their second year D1, I think.
Oh, really?
First or second.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually beat Syracuse in a game back when Jim Boeheim was coaching. Yeah. The old crosstown rival everyone talks about.
I think that Cupcake out-of-conference schedule is finally catching up to Syracuse, because now they're losing to Hofstra. They can't make a free throw. At least Texas can make free throws. I mean, Mark and Pope went 6 for 6 from the line or something like that. It's just embarrassing up there in Central New York.
Sounds like that's a personal thing there, Patrick.
Yeah, it might be.
Listening to it in the sports office, whenever they miss a free throw, it takes years off Patrick's life every time we're in there.
Vokatitis actually set a Texas record last week, 14 of 14. That's the most made free throws in a game without a miss in their game last week. So, yeah, they can make some free throws.
Tell you what, if that ever happens in the Dome by an Orangeman, I don't know. Pigs are going to start flying or something.
Well, we'll flip to the other side on women's basketball. This is a team that still has a 0 in the loss column, and I'll tell you probably the most impressive win was this past one against Baylor. A really good Baylor basketball team, held them under 60 points there. What do you make so far of the women's basketball team? Picked up 8. I think I saw the last poll, 8 first-place votes today.
It's amazing, and he's doing it with 7. I mean, he's got 3 players that would play a lot of minutes. A starter in the freshman Aaliyah Crump is out. Brianna Preston is a point guard that play a lot of minutes. And then they've got a transfer from Missouri they thought would help a lot that hasn't played a minute, Ashton Judd. They hope to have her back. But it was pretty amazing what they did to Baylor. They turned them over 30 times in Fort Worth on Sunday at Dickies Arena. That's one of the 2 regional sites. One of the reasons they're playing games there is to get ready for the regional, and you got to figure if Texas is anywhere near the top of the SEC, they're going to get sent to Fort Worth in the regional thing, get through the first 2 rounds. But I mean, that was Baylor's worst loss in 19 years. First time they suffered a 30-point loss, 30 turnovers, 42-2 is what they outscored them off a turnover. Just silly numbers, right?
Goodness.
I mean, just amazing.
Yeah.
You know who else is amazing, and I think we might need to start having a conversation for who's the best forward in the country, and Madison Booker. Is it too early to start saying that? You know, I know it's like a month in, we still got a lot of season left, but she's been on a roll.
She is, and she does it kind of quietly compared to some other stars in the game, and so I think that's, you know, the numbers are outstanding, but sometimes they're not that way. It's just a matter of you know, she does all the little things.
And no doubt. Yeah.
She doesn't have to score 27 points a game. She doesn't have to get 8 rebounds. She doesn't have to get 5 assists. But sometimes, you know, she's coming off her first ever triple-double last week against UT Rio Grande Valley. But she's so good. The mid-range game is so deadly, and she can create her own shot. She's unselfish to a fault sometimes. She wears that 35 for a reason. Kevin Durant is her hero, and obviously, you know, he's the mid-range king as well. So, but this team, guys, it's just they're relentless, and they get these transfers to buy in immediately to play the way they play, and that's a hard part, I think, for any coach when you get the portal. You know, you get people with 2, 3, 4 years of experience doing it one way, and then to do it a different way. And not to say their way was wrong, but Vic Schaefer's way is a way a lot of players don't play, and that's, you know, pick them up on the inbounds and guard them for the length of the floor, no matter if you're a big, like 6'6" Kyla Oldacre, or, you know, Rory Harmon, just running all over the place, taking contact. And I think that's what separates all the Texas teams. The big question's always been with these teams is, can they avoid those scoring droughts? Can they avoid offensive issues? Because they're going to D you up. They're going to pressure you. They're going to turn you over, but sometimes they've had issues trying to score the ball and avoiding getting turned over. That's what happened in South Carolina in the Final Four. They went dry for a stretch, and that was that. But they're always in there because of their defense.
Absolutely. Coming up next, they have Northwestern State, South Dakota, and Southeastern Louisiana. So
I
three
get to
games.
go to South Dakota, guys. How about that? This weekend in Brookings, South Dakota.
Wow, yeah. I was about to say that, yeah, you're going to South Dakota. And I remember
better or worse than Tupelo, Mississippi?
To be determined. But you know what's funny about this trip? I mean, it's a return game. South Dakota State came here. It's a good program. I think they're 10-2 right now. But the other part of this trip was because they wanted to take one of their players home. Jocalingham went in Tonda from Sioux Falls. Well, she now plays for Vanderbilt. So that element of the trip and having all the family there, that's not working out. You know, a few years ago, they went to Jackson State to play, and, you know, obviously that's when they were recruiting Madison Booker. She'd already committed, but, you know, it was a way to get her in front of the team back in Mississippi, and now they're going to Brookings with nobody from South Dakota.
Right.
Just a vast wonderland of of a game on a Sunday at noon.
I was going to say, yeah, it feels, not wasted is too strong of a word, but it just kind of feels like an empty trip. But they'll be undefeated if they win all their games, and they'll be favored in all those games. They'll be undefeated going into SEC play. What do you think Coach Schaefer's message is to his team, not only as they get close to SEC play, but then they start playing those familiar opponents, and a really interesting schedule to start SEC play with Missouri, Ole Miss, LSU, and South Carolina among those first 6 games?
His message Wednesday night against Northwestern State will be he's scared to death of them. And that's just, he likes to say he coaches against ghosts. And I can say categorically, by being around this team when I do games, especially on the road, when I spend a little bit more time with him, I mean, the guy, he doesn't let go of his laptop to watch tape up until almost the tip-off. And it's a guy that paid his dues to become a head coach. And he's one of those coaches that thinks someone's always doing something. He wants to make sure he's doing his part. So whether it is Northwestern State on Wednesday night, South Dakota State, or the opener on New Year's Day against Missouri in Columbia, he is treating them all. And when I do my pregame interview with him, he's got me convinced that any team can beat him by 30 if they don't come out and play the way he wants. So that's just what he's got ingrained. And so it's never a different message, I guess is my point, whether it's, playing in the Virgin Islands where they outscore everybody by 40 or playing in an SEC schedule. And I think that keeps his team on edge as well.
Roger, one more question before we let you go. So Noah the other day said you guys went to Topgolf, and I just have to ask how that went, because he says you're actually pretty good at golf, even though you only play a few times a year. He also did say you have a group trip that you guys go on around the country, which I gotta say I'm jealous, because that's been on my bucket list. I've always wanted to do something like that. But are you secretly good at golf? Are you sandbagging us?
I used to play a lot, and then I had a family, and I got a little more work. Yeah, there's 4 of us. We get together once a year. We rotate between 4 cities, between Austin, Dallas, Seattle, and Los Angeles, and that's primarily my golf for the year. And it's guys I used to work with, and it's a great way to stay in touch. It was born out of a conversation at a wedding reception with one of the guys, and the golf trip unfortunately lasted longer than the wedding, so the marriage. But he's happily married again.
Hey, it all worked out. And you got your golf in, which is good.
That's
as
right.
well.
Yeah, we're 3 decades into this thing.
I love it.
That's awesome.
And you just keep just beating up on Levon and Noah when you guys go out and play for fun.
You guys know Topgolf isn't golf. You just hit it and then you hit it again, and it's a great social way to do something and still just be able to hang out and get away from the office.
Absolutely. Roger, thank you so much for your time here on Southeast Sports Plus. Looking forward to catching up with you again down the road.
All right, thanks, guys.
Absolutely, thank you. Roger Wallace joining us from Austin, Texas. They have a really we were looking at the women's basketball team. That's a really fun team to watch, and as he said, I mean, this team, they have a lot of different weapons, but I'll tell you right now, Madison Booker looks like the truth.
Look, I think the SEC in women's basketball this year is going to have 3 of the teams that will make it to the Elite Eight. It's hard to look past LSU. It's hard to look past South Carolina. And you cannot look past Texas by any means. So I mean, this conference is deep this year. And, Texas has got a great team over there at 12-0 right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned those 3 teams. For Texas to start off the SEC, it's Missouri, Ole Miss, Auburn, those 3, and then
Ole Miss is no slouch either.
They're not. And then after that, LSU and South Carolina, both games on the road. Those are their first 5 games in the SEC.
Well, you can't say they won't be battle tested. That's for sure.
Yep, and they're undefeated right now. They should be undefeated through the non-conference, and we'll see how it starts in the SEC when that tips off coming up next month. Coming up next here on our program, close up hour number 1 with the latest AP poll rankings. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we wrap up our number 1 with the latest look at the AP poll. We have been treated to a lot of great rankings, teams that are ranked playing against one another. And the good thing about that is obviously you get a lot of teams that are you get a lot of good games, so to speak. But then also what ends up happening is after these results happen, you get a lot of movement in the polls. We've seen a few teams shuffle in and out of the top 10, including Alabama, who was in there earlier. They played a rough game this week against Arizona. We'll break that down coming up in our next hour. But the top 2 teams stay the top 2 teams that they're up top.
Yes, but we'll start here at the bottom. Georgia cracks the top 25 there. Virginia and Florida both there at the 23 spot. And how about that? And I don't think anybody really truly expected Florida to be at 23 this early on in the season. But as we talked about last week, they suffered their 4th loss on Tuesday. Last year, they suffered their 4th loss in February. So it's just a little bit of a different year there for Todd Golden in Gainesville. St. John's over there at 22, and then Auburn up at 21 after the win over Chattanooga. Yeah,
how about those Georgia Bulldogs? They just keep looking impressive, but as you mentioned with Florida, they jumped 5 spots there in the rankings. Auburn, I think a lot of people understand, a lot of the voters understand that Auburn's schedule is very, very tough. All they lost to Arizona, they stay there inside the top 25.
Yes, moving inside the top 20 now, Tennessee and Rick Barnes' crew, after suffering 3 straight losses, sits at number 20 there. Texas Tech, after the loss to Arkansas. I finally listened to our friend Courtney Mims. I said the Hogs were going to win that sleepy 11 a.m. tip over there in Dallas. A big win for Arkansas. We'll talk that with Trey Dare on tomorrow's show. Illinois over at 18, Kansas at 17, and then Alabama, as you mentioned, we're going to talk about at the top of our second hour, suffers a kind of shocking loss, in my opinion, to the Arizona team that, it's just another blowout in another blowout-heavy year.
Yep, a blowout-heavy year, and once again, they got blown out in a certain category. We'll break that down, something that Nate Oates has been talking about this entire time. But, got a win last week over UTSA, but they are falling in those polls after another big loss once again this past week. But then, but you mentioned it there with Illinois. I mean, this is a team that Alabama played early on in the year. They played a really rough schedule, but they continue to tumble there as well. And Nebraska,
Nebraska in at number 15. But how about this? Arkansas after the nice win over Texas Tech. But Vanderbilt is the highest ranked SEC team in men's basketball at number 13, sitting just behind North Carolina and right behind Louisville.
That's unbelievable considering the success the SEC had last year. SEC put in 14 teams in the tournament last year. Now your highest ranked team is number 13 in the country. They were jockeying for position there. 3 teams in the top 5 for a large part of last season. Not the same kind of success this year. We'll see if it turns around in SEC play. It would be hard to quantify, though, because it'll be dog eat dog once it comes to the SEC. So not necessarily making the hay that they've been there so far, but Arkansas in there as a top 15 team there as well.
I almost wonder if the basketball team's trying to pick up the slack for the football team just missing the playoff. And, the basketball team and Mark Byington's like, you know what? We're not even going to give them any thought of leaving another team out. We're just going to solidify our spot there. We'll talk with Corey Curtis about the somewhat surprising close game against Central Arkansas that they only won by 11. But, again, that's going to come up in our second hour. Inside the top 10, BYU and A.J. Debonsa. They're at number 10. Michigan State with Tom Izzo, who just signed that nice salary raise.
Right.
And number 8, Houston. Gonzaga in at number 7. And Purdue at number 6.
I mean, really nice there. Not a lot of movement there from inside the top 10, but you mentioned the stud from BYU, early favorites right now for the player of the year.
Yes.
Obviously just a fantastic player, and Gonzaga and Houston basically just flip spots from last week's poll going into this week's poll.
And then inside the top 5, Solo Ball and UConn coming off that win over Texas that we just talked about with Roger. In at number 5, Iowa State up at number 4 after upending Purdue 2 weeks ago. Duke in at number 3, another one of those potential Naismith players of the year in Cameron Boozer, and potential number 1 overall pick. Who knows once that's all said and done.
Right.
And then the top 2 that honestly, the 3 through 5 are like right here. and then Michigan, Arizona are right here.
Yes.
So I mean, there's just no debating that these are the top 2 teams in the country. Arizona definitely showed it against Alabama, and then Michigan, just another blowout. It is what it is.
When they play a close game, it'll be really interesting because I want to go back and look to see when their last close game was. But because they have just been absolutely pounding teams. They pounded Noah Gross's Maryland Terrapins 100-83 there in that game.
Talk to him on Friday about that.
Yeah, beat Villanova by a lot as well. Their last close game, I mean, was TCU when they went on the road at TCU.
And TCU's no slouch.
No.
They're the only unranked team that Florida's lost to this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, TCU is playing good basketball, but that 67-63 game was the last close game they've played. Every other single team after that they've blown out, including a good Auburn team, a good Gonzaga team, and Villanova, and then most recently against Maryland. I don't think they'll have another huge marquee game. No, they really don't until Big Ten play opens up against USC. So it'll be interesting to follow for those 2 teams. It's the reverse in the coaches poll. Michigan is 1. Arizona is 2. Speaking of Arizona, they played Alabama this week. We'll break it down in hour 2.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
We have been treated to a lot of great basketball. This past weekend, a lot of SEC teams played neutral site games. Even though Alabama was just down the road from their home in Tuscaloosa, they played in Birmingham against the #1 team in the country in Arizona. The first half looked good, but the second half did not, as the Wildcats raced away with a 57-34 run in the last half of that game. The final 20 minutes, they out-rebounding them as well, and they got a big win in the state of Alabama before they head out back to Tucson. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. Patrick, this is a game that we were really excited about going into the weekend because it was another test for Alabama. But I'll tell you what, Arizona looked really good against Auburn the entire game, and we talked about Koa Pete and company. When this team really needed to turn it to a different gear against Alabama, they did so in a big way.
It's so interesting because all last week, we talked about this game twice. I think we talked about it Wednesday, and then we also talked about it on Friday.
Right.
And all week we were talking about, all right, how is Alabama going to slow down Koa Pete and the sensational freshman over there at Arizona?
Right.
Well, they did that. They held him to, I believe, 6 points.
Yep.
The problem is, we also talked about Arizona doesn't really shoot the three that much.
Don't.
You know, they rank way low in attempts per game. I think they were like 300 something.
Out of 365, they were like 363.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do they do? I don't know. We'll just rain down 10 3-pointers. You average 6.4 makes per game, 282nd in Division I.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, well, you know, I think we should finally unlock this weapon. We should probably, you know, you've been waiting for it all year. You're trying to find the right time to pull out all the 3-pointers. And, yeah, why don't you just do it in Birmingham?
Right. Yeah, and Coach mentioned that he mentioned it kind of in laughing in a joking phase. He was like, they might just come out. He was talking specifically about Koa Pete, but he was like, hey, they might come out and just unleash something we haven't seen all year long, and it looks like they did there behind the 3-point line because they have been, as you mentioned, they have not been not only they don't make a lot of them. They don't really even attempt as much, but I think they knew going into Alabama, hey, they're going to give us a 3-point shot. If we're in a new building, we might as well go ahead and shoot it and see how it goes. And for them, it went well.
Yeah, and I think it was when you look at Tommy Lloyd and what he said last week about his team not really shooting the 3-pointer as much. It's just been because the getting into the paint has been what's worked for them.
Correct.
And there's been no real point in shooting threes when you have a higher percentage shot available to you. And the big storyline last week was, okay, can Alabama drain enough threes to outdo the consistency of the 2-point baskets for Arizona, and it just did not work. It was a great first half, as you mentioned, for Alabama, but the second half, it just looked like they were shell-shocked.
Yes.
And Arizona came out through the first punch, and Alabama didn't know how to react.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from it.
Right, and Bama came out with a great game plan, and they executed really well to start this game. But when we have talked about the rebounding on this team, and Coach Oates has talked about this almost ad nauseum about how this team, when they rebound at a high clip, they are one of the best teams in basketball because they can shoot it. They play with tempo. They play with pace. When they're beat out on the boards, it's over.
Just
for this
look
team.
at the Purdue game. That's the main one that we were talking about before this game, and then now you can look at this game as well. But I tell you what, the crowd there in Birmingham was definitely into it.
Oh, no doubt. Sellout crowd out there.
It was rocking in the first half. But just like the team, I think all of the fans were shell-shocked. I was also surprised at how many Arizona fans made the trip out.
Yeah, me too.
Their section looked pretty good. But there was one guy that did lead the way for Arizona, and his name's Braden Berries. And I jokingly said Berries. Berries, 5 from deep, 5 from 10 there from beyond the arc, 28 points, and just another freshman. Him between Berries and Koa Pete. Man, Arizona's got some electric freshmen on that team that are probably going to lead this team pretty far.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this has been a really fun team to watch from the outside looking in. But, of course, they played a couple of SEC teams, so we got a chance to see them up close and personal. Auburn, of course, going to Tucson, and Arizona coming to the state of Alabama. But we talked about the playmakers for Alabama and the guys that they're really relying upon. Guys like LeBaron Philon, guys like Latrell Wrightsell, and they have been solid, so to speak. But it feels like there needs to be another gear with these leaders in order to beat the upper echelon of college basketball.
Well, I mean, they combined for 35 points in the loss, and then once Arizona went on that big run and Alabama was down by a lot, it seemed like Philon just became a ball hog, so to speak. When I started watching, I watched the whole game, but once Arizona jumped out to that big lead, it seemed like LeBaron was just trying to play me ball a little bit and just trying to get them back into the game. I know he took a lot of threes after they were down big, and that's just what Alabama does this year. But I just think this Alabama team needs to find someone that will step up in the 4 or the 5 spot.
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, this isn't the first time that they've gotten out rebounded.
Mm-hmm.
This is starting to become a recurring problem here.
Yeah.
And all this problem signifies to me is early exit in March.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a scary time for Nate Oates because, how can you just predict your guys to not play with effort? Because rebounding, I hate to break it to everybody, rebounding is just effort.
Yeah.
It takes effort to box out the guy. It takes effort to go up and grab the board. It takes effort to get down the floor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just shocking that this Alabama team is kind of playing with little to no effort, but it also kind of shocks you that they've won so many games already.
Right. And when they do play, when they do get up for teams, that's when they really play well. I mean, they're out rebounded 52-32, but the key number was the offensive rebounds for Arizona. 22-3. I mean, it's too many second chance points, too many second chance opportunities, and it showed it on the
How can
on
you
the
win
box
a game
score.
like that?
You
just can't.
They shot Arizona shot 84 times. Bama shot 56 times.
Usually, Bama's the one shooting it 84 times.
Right. But they got so many second chance points because they were out rebounding Alabama, especially on those offensive rebounds. And head coach Nate Oates has been kind of singular with this messaging. And he was not happy once again after another blowout loss.
Yeah, call timeout and tell them play harder. Or call timeout and make adjustments. I'm not going to call timeout and tell them play harder. These guys are supposed to be competitors. Compete, play hard. So I didn't think there was any defensive adjustments to make. The adjustment was made to play hard. So if the adjustments to play harder, they need to figure that out on the fly.
I noticed two things there. Number one, Nate Oates kind of singing the same song over and over again, but his leader on the backside, it looked like LeBaron was right there in lockstep with him. Yeah. Like, hey, we don't need that timeout called for you to tell us to play harder. We need to play harder. And I think that's a good message for LeBaron Philon to hear and then help be the coach on the floor when they need it, because I think Arizona went on a 28-6 run at one point there to start the second half.
Yeah.
And in that run, Nate Oates did not call a timeout. He just tried to let his guys play through.
And that's the one thing I did also notice. It was like, okay, why did Nate Oates not call a timeout to somewhat stop the bleeding here? Because it just seemed like Arizona one basket, another basket, and then once they started reining in the short to mid-range shots, that's when the three-pointer started to fall as well. So it was just adding salt to the wound, and I was just waiting. And I was like, okay, when's the timeout coming? When's the timeout coming? Because we just see it so often when these teams go on these big runs. It's like, okay, you got to stop the bleeding. I don't know if Nate Oates was just waiting for the under 14 media timeout. That's the one that was the run that kind of defined the end for Alabama there. But when you look at leaders on the floor, it's got to be LeBaron Philon, and I don't know if the message was directly at him or if it was directed at some other players, but it seemed like he got the message or he was just agreeing to the message. So he might have thought that, hey, I totally agree with you, Coach. There's some players on this team that's just not pulling their weight. And again, I don't care where you're ranked in the preseason.
Yep.
We just saw this problem with Texas this year in football. Preseason number 1 missed the college football playoff. You're not just going to make the NCAA tournament because you're ranked in the top 25 in the preseason. You still have to win the games. And, this is just one thing that kind of worries me about this Alabama team. Kind of like how what worries me with the football team is, the effort on the offensive line and getting the run game going. This is just one thing that kind of worries me about this Alabama team, and it makes me hesitant to want to say, all right, they're going to the Elite Eight, they're going to the Final Four, and Alabama's going to have 2 teams in the Final Four, or a team in the Final Four in back-to-back years.
No, I don't think so either, and it's kind of hard to make a Final Four that when you compare them to what the top level of college basketball is. You think about Arizona, you think about Michigan.
They're so far away from everyone else right now. It's just not even close. You could maybe put Duke in that category, but even Duke hasn't blown out some of these teams like that.
No, not in the same way that Arizona is. And so now I think the good thing about going on the court and playing them is now Nate Oates has tangible evidence to go back and tell us, guys, this is how far away we are from top level basketball.
He's got two tapes?
Yeah, exactly. It's like literally this is it, and they can quantify it now instead of just it being theoretical. We got a chance to hear from Tommy Lloyd, and Bama's got a weakness. It's rebounding, and that's something he emphasized.
Man, he coached in so many games. I don't know. But we really wanted to come out and we wanted to put it to him on the glass. We feel like we have an advantage there on most nights, and I think we were plus 20 on UConn a few weeks ago. Now they were missing one of their big guys, so let's factor that in as well. But, we knew a theme for the week for us, was, early energy, early effort, because against Alabama, you have to start your possessions like that. You can't you can't ease into anything. And then the word we really hammered in on was endurance. You have to have competitive endurance against a team like that because they just keep coming at you. And our guys, I thought they did that. And then, we were able to, the game started okay. They made a little run. It felt like the place got going a little bit, and we didn't say anything crazy at halftime. We just, hey, let's see if we can come out and land the first punch and see what happens. And fortunately, we landed a few haymakers, made some defensive plays. Obviously, Braden got in his own little flow, and it was pretty special.
There's 2 more games in the non-conference before they open up league play. They'll play South Florida at home coming up on Wednesday, and then we have Kennesaw State coming up a little bit later on the 21st, and then Yale will close it out on the 29th. And there's just a few opportunities for head coach Nate Oates to tell his team, hey, these are things we need to execute before they open SEC play, because, by the way, they open SEC play with Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Those are the top 2 games. So this could be a really interesting 5-game stretch here to close out non-con and before they go into the SEC.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about Kentucky's struggles with these big games. They got a nice win, which we'll talk about tomorrow, over their old rival in Indiana. I know that rivalry, it was the first time played since 2016, I believe.
Right.
In a battle of 2 blue bloods. So, that's going to be no cakewalk. It seems like Mark Pope's got those guys rolling over there. That game, there was definitely a lot more energy I've seen than in previous Kentucky games. But, you also look at Kennesaw State, and I believe earlier this season they led the country in 3-pointers made.
Yes.
So, you can't really look over them either. So
right.
That game I'd probably expect there to be, let's see, about 50 3-pointers taken between the 2 teams. It's going to be, run down the court. Shoot a 3-pointer.
Shoot a 3. Come back.
Get the rebound. Run down the court.
Come back.
Shoot another 3-pointer.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually I'm looking this up right now to see the 3-pointers attempted, because I think you're right. I think they're 2 of the top.
I think they made like 18 in their first game.
Right.
Kennesaw State, I'm talking about.
Yeah. It looks like Bama is obviously, as far as 3-pointers attempted, they are top 5 in the country, along with Florida State, Youngstown State, Murray State, and a few others. But I remember that statistic that had come out that they were just absolutely destroying it as far as 3-pointers made overall. But now I expect to see a ton of 3-pointers attempted there in that matchup.
Yeah, and it's not going to get any easier for Alabama, but it's a long season. All you got to do, if your goal is to just make the tournament, just finish in the top half of the SEC this year, finish, in my opinion, I think top 8, and you're in. That's my guess.
Right.
8, you're definitely in. 9, you're on the bubble.
Probably on the bubble.
10, you're probably on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and so we'll see how they start SEC play coming into the league. 3 final games in the non-conference before that, though, starting up on a Wednesday. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we head over to Nashville, catch up with Corey Curtis. Stay with us. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we roll on with hour number 2 with Corey Curtis out of Nashville. Of course, there's lots to talk about in Nash Vegas with the Heisman Trophy finalists there and Diego Pavia. Lots of news there, lots of news on the court as well. The Tennessee Titans also, sneaky good, sneaky interesting here in the last
scoring points.
Exactly.
Scoring points.
Yeah. Can't wait to dive.
24 points.
Last
4 games.
You gotta love it. You got to love it with this team. And
the bar is low, all right? The bar is low.
And they are rising to the occasion on every one. We will start with Diego Pavia, who made the trip over to the Big Apple and finished second place in the voting. We were just talking during the break, and you and I had very similar, actually exact similar ballots there. What'd you make of Diego Pavia's trip there to the Big Apple, all things included?
Well, okay, start with, the vote. It was not as close as I thought it would be. I think he still got 189 first place votes. But didn't Fernando get like 600 or something like that? Yeah. I expected it to be much closer than that. I was frankly surprised. Like, he didn't even win the Southeast, which I kind of found ridiculous. I don't know how you watched him play and didn't vote for him.
Right.
And but whatever. I mean, people have their choices, and that's fine. So, Mendoza won. I expected him to win. It just wasn't quite as close as I expected. Obviously, the way he handled it was not great. And because you're still representing your university, you're also representing the Heisman Trust.
Yeah.
You were brought there as a guest. I mean, being invited to that vote and that reveal is one of the biggest honors in all of college sports. And I understand, the disappointment for the young man is there, but you have to handle it with more grace.
Yeah.
You just do. And I said this to you in the break, and I sincerely believe it. Being this guy is what's helped propel him to where he is.
Yeah.
But you still got to grow up at some point, and you got to be able to compartmentalize these things and know that there's a time and a place, for everything. And so now Vanderbilt's first ever player that goes to New York for the Heisman, it's going to be remembered for the wrong things.
Yeah.
And that's the real unfortunate thing about it.
Yeah.
How do you think Clark Lee feels about this? Because I mean, he made the trip to New York. He said all the right things about Diego Pavia, and now, as you mentioned, he's going to be remembered for all the wrong reasons. And I just feel like his coach is the exact opposite of what Diego Pavia is.
Well, that's not all Diego Pavia is, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. There's a lot more to Diego Pavia than that. I had some guy on Twitter telling me, saying every bad word he could about Pavia, and then telling me what a Saint Mendoza is, and I'm like, well, that's great, but we were with Diego on Wednesday when he was buying Christmas gifts for Special Olympians out of his own pocket. I mean, he's does he have an edge to him? Absolutely.
Sure.
Do he and his brothers look like a bunch of mafia hitmen sometime? Absolutely. But you know what? That's what they are.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Just because they look different from you and it might scare you, that's okay. Now, when you behave like that afterwards, that's not okay.
Right.
That's not okay. But he was being criticized before he ever got there.
For sure.
This was before any of this happened. And so, I guess this is my deeper way of saying Clark, I'm sure, because I don't want to speak for him, is disappointed. Just like everybody, I'm sure, in the Vanderbilt community is. But he also knows Diego way better than any of us.
No question.
Way better.
Yeah.
And he knows all the ins and outs and what makes him tick and, and all that. And so, I'm sure, like a parent, he'd be disappointed, right? But you don't disown your kids because they make a mistake.
Right.
You just don't. And so I think it's probably more along those lines.
Yeah. as you take a look at Mendoza and Pavia, and now that the hay's in the barn, so to speak, with these two players overall. I know the way that you voted is the same way that I did, but how do you think that Fernando Mendoza will be remembered? Because it's I mean, this is the first time ever, it feels like we're living in the upside down in Stranger Things, that you have an Indiana quarterback and a Vanderbilt quarterback as the best two in America.
It's crazy.
I know.
It really is crazy. It really is crazy. So much of these Heisman winners are remembered by what they become as pros, which isn't right.
Yeah,
it's got nothing to do with anything. But it's always like, we don't remember Johnny Manziel for being an electric college football player. We remember him for being a bozo in the NFL and screwing everything up. We still remember Tim Tebow as a great college football player.
Right.
But we also remember him as a disastrous NFL.
Yeah.
All right. And so there's some of that goes with that. But I think when I look at Mendoza and I say what's going to determine this year for him, I need to see what he does in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
If he leads Indiana to the championship game, then he will truly have a great legacy.
Right.
If they go 1-out in the playoffs, he'll be known as a guy who led them to an undefeated finish in the Big Ten and winning the championship, and he had a great year. But if he can take them to the championship game of this playoffs, I think it could take his legacy to another level. And then whatever he does from the NFL, from there, has to be seen. But that's the crazy thing about now how we have the Heisman now, and we have up to like 3 or 4 more games.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, legacies can be built.
No question.
Legacies. I mean, it's just like the NCAA basketball tournament. I mean, legacies are built in that thing. And, nobody cares what you do in the regular season anymore. It's only what you do in the dance. And we're getting more in that direction here. And so, like Julian saying, distant on the ballot, right?
Yeah.
What if he blows up in the playoff?
Oh,
and wins it all for Ohio State? I mean, everybody is just going to be like, wow, Julian saying first pick of the draft. That's what they'll be saying.
Yes.
If he goes off in Ohio State, wins all those things. So this is a chance to rewrite some of the finish to the season, or it's a chance to put an exclamation point on it for some people. Of course, Jeremiah Love's not playing in it, which is highly disappointing. But that's the way it is.
Right.
Corey, one more question on Diego Pavia, and then we can put this all to rest. I know I asked about Clark Lee, but do you think this now hurts his draft stock?
No. I mean, look, it might with some people, but I mean, it can't hurt him more than being 5'9".
Yeah.
I mean, really. I mean, so if you like him enough to look past being 5'9", you like him because of his edge in his athleticism. You're going to have questions about this, I think, for sure. And like I said, there might be a coach or two who's just like, no, I don't want to deal with it. Like the whole Shedeur Sanders circus. Like apparently people didn't want to deal with that, but Shedeur was thought to be a top 5 pick. Nobody's saying Diego's a top 5 pick. Although if he were 6'4" and put up those numbers,
100%.
He'd be one of the first 3 picks of the draft. But he's not. He's 5'9", and so he's starting. I mean, somebody's going to take a chance on him.
Yeah.
Because Russell Wilson's not tall. Drew Brees was about 5'11". I know they list baby Grogu in Arizona at 6 feet tall, but I'm not buying it. He looks just like Grogu. He's adorable. He's got those cheeks and those ears. He's adorable.
But he's tiny. You're right.
But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of 5'9" quarterback. How tall is Jalen Hurts?
Oh, probably 6 foot, I'd say.
Yeah,
probably 5'11", 6 foot. In there with cleats, maybe. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, but look, Diego's 5'9".
Yeah.
Even though he's listed as 6 foot.
Oh,
Diego's 5'9".
Yeah. I saw last year. I stood toe to toe with stood side by side with Dylan Gabriel, and he was another small quarterback too. And some team took a chance on him too. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all shakes out come the NFL draft. He'll be actually here in the Senior Bowl coming up in next month.
That's right.
Late next month. So we'll see him up close in person.
When I was a kid, I was fishing with my dad once. And the game warden came up to us and wanted to look at all the fish we had. And he pulled one of the walleye that we caught out, and he was like, I need to measure it because it looked a little small. And my dad pulled that fish out of that and stretched it as hard as he could and handed it over to the game warden because he didn't want to get fined. And Diego, the night before heights and weights, if he does it at the combine, is going to be in one of those like vertical racks where you latch your ankles in and you hang yourself upside down. And he's just going to stretch himself until it's time to go.
As he should. From 5, who knows? That might give you 2 inches, 5'11", you'll be good to go. It'll be good to go.
If you go, like you know how the Senator Kelly in Arizona, he was an astronaut. Well, he's got a twin brother, and when he was in space for like months.
Yeah.
And he came back, he was like 1.5 inches taller than his brother because you get bigger in space because of the less gravity.
Right.
Diego should go.
Can we put him on a rocket ship?
Yeah.
Go put him in the space station until the combine gets here. So Diego can come down at 6 feet tall.
Right after the bowl game, instead of boarding the team plane going back home or the team bus going back home,
he goes to NASA.
He just goes. To the ISS.
SpaceX.
There's a space station literally an hour away from Orlando.
Yeah.
Just go over to Melbourne.
Well. I mean, we got Rocket City. We got Huntsville right down the road.
There. Yeah, it's right there.
Strap him to something.
Even better,
jump down I-65.
You don't even have to go on the plane back to Nashville. You could just drive over to the Space Coast. They call it the Space Coast for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
We got it all figured out.
I love it. Let's move to basketball now. Vanderbilt, the highest ranked SEC team in the top 25. Another win for Coach Byington's group. They stay undefeated there on the season. What are you making this early start here for the Commodores?
Well, would Tyler Nickel score 30 this time?
Yes.
I think. I think that is really the most impressive part of them is they have so many guys who can torch you.
Mm-hmm.
They're not relying on one guy each night. They have a number of different guys who can just flat out torch you. And they all shoot the basketball extremely well. They all play at an incredible pace. He plays a lot of guys, and he's got the team he wants. And we talked about how they were confident. We see why. I mean, I can't say how wrong I was about Byington. I mean, because I thought it was uninspired. I thought he was going to be a 500 coach because Vanderbilt's a tough job.
Very.
But they've got some things straightened out with school NIL wise, and the way winning is important all of a sudden.
Right.
And he had the dinero to go out and basically buy a new team.
Mm-hmm.
They only brought back 3 players.
Right.
And these guys, they scout who they want. There is like pro teams have like college scouting and pro scouting. I mean, you've got that in college now.
Yes.
You've got your high school scouts and your college scouts.
Yeah.
And so you have to say they do a great job of scouting. They do a great job of analysis of who fits what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do a great job of getting it out of them because there are no players on that team who are a disappointment right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they all come in and they deliver. And here's one of the big compliments you. They're fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're fun to watch. They fill it up. And the thing that I enjoy is when Bryce Drew was here as the head coach, they were the softest team you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah.
Whenever things got tough, they just
That's a good point.
crumbled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a team with 2 or 3 NBA players on it that went winless in the SEC.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
It's almost hard to do. Yeah, with the talent they had.
Yeah. So I mean, look, there were holes in that roster, but with that many talented guys, you don't go winless in the SEC.
Right.
You win by accident sometimes.
Yeah.
But that team was soft and found a way. And he, while turning over the roster and implementing the style of play and the type of play and the type of players that he wants, has instilled a culture as well. Mm-hmm. And that's all really, really amazing. Mm-hmm. That he done. I mean, like, we've seen the job that Shea Ralph has done, but it took Shea Ralph, 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And he just did it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Corey, I know when you look at the final score and it being an 11-point win over Central Arkansas, that's got to scare you just a little bit. And I know they had another close game against a G5 team in Western Kentucky, but the thing you could say about WKU is that they were a tournament team just 2 years ago. Or is there a little bit?
They were also up big in that game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were up big against Western Kentucky, and then Western Kentucky came back. An 11-point win does not concern me.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, no, because they played in the SEC ACC Challenge, and they played undefeated SMU, and what did they do?
They beat them.
Ran them out the gym.
They smashed them to bits. Mm-hmm. So, if anything was going to concern me is, were they not quite as ready to play in that game against Central Arkansas, or did they try to do some different things? Did they get different guys minutes in that game because they knew they were playing, Scottie Pippen's old school?
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it's one is always, to me, like, it was with the Titans. The last week with the win in Cleveland, I was like, and they ran for 180 yards. Mm-hmm. I said, I need to see the offensive line do it again.
Yeah.
All right, because one time it's a fluke. Well, they go to San Francisco, and no sacks and 130 yards rushing. They did it again.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, the offensive line headed in a better direction. If Vanderbilt has a few more of these, then I'll be concerned. With one, and again, it's 11. It's not 3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't just escape.
Yeah, you got a nice win there over Central Arkansas. Coming up next, though, it's Memphis in a traditional power. I think is a fair word for this Memphis Tigers program. Before we get your thoughts on it, let's listen to Coach Byington talking about the Memphis program.
Yeah, I mean, our decision making. On the offensive end, we were hesitant tonight, and we've been willing passers and making great decisions. That's been something we've done really well. And tonight we weren't. The break, the exams, or whatever else, the opponent. There was some things there. Probably all adds up, but we weren't sharp.
So that was him talking about some of the changes they'll make before this upcoming game. Just a few games left in a non-conference before they head into SEC play and in kind of the rough and tumble SEC league. As you think about this Memphis game and what's ahead for this basketball team, what are some of the things they need to do to buckle up and be able to start SEC play on the right note?
Well, I just think they need to avoid any hiccups, and they need to put away all these games that they should put away. I mean, this is a game they should win, right? Yeah. But it's also a name on their resume. Memphis may not be great this year, but it's a name on their resume.
Right.
And because right now, I mean, we're a long way from Selection Sunday. With this team, you got to start thinking about seeding.
Yes.
And all of these games count. And so, number one, win the games you should win, and then get to the SEC and get ready to battle. But number two, and probably the most important thing, make sure you're healthy when you get there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what they need to do that. They've gotten Frankie Collins back, and that's helped this basketball team as well. And they've been able to just reintegrate him right into the lineup. So make sure your fluidity is still good and your team cohesion is still good. Be healthy and don't have any unnecessary red marks on your resume, because you're going to lose games in the SEC.
Sure, right. Sure.
And that's okay. You can finish 4th or 5th in the SEC and still be a top 4 seed in the tournament. And so, I hate to make it all about that, but this team is good enough to where that's what they should start thinking about, is positioning ourselves for March.
Absolutely.
Corey, speaking of time to start thinking about things, is it time to start thinking about Cam Ward might be catching a groove here?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, look, he had a chance to tie the game at halftime yesterday and missed. I don't know if you saw that play or not. He had Van Jefferson, former Florida Gator.
Was the Titans game the mid slate, the 425, or was it the early?
Yeah.
I was kind of I think Gerhard and I both were preoccupied watching 44-year-old Phillip Rivers.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great game, 18-16. But he had it was 17-10, and he had Van Jefferson on a double move just before halftime for about a 40-yard touchdown, and he missed him.
Yeah,
he had a good pocket and he missed him, and that has happened 2 weeks in a row now, and so that's one of the concerns about what to work on for Cam Ward. His deep ball accuracy has got to get better. Now, they've run the ball well 2 weeks in a row, and you see the touchdown he threw to Gunnar Helm yesterday.
Yeah,
that was
like a highlight.
That one was nice.
He's got. You see the pocket he threw from?
Yeah,
he hasn't had a pocket like that all year. And so, if they can continue to run the football and give him pockets like that, he'll do well. He looked very calm yesterday. That was one of the other things I liked about him. But he's again gotten away from running the football. And like they had a 3rd and 6 yesterday where he strung it out and threw it away and they punted. I'm like, dude, 6 yards, run, go get it, try to get it. I understand nobody's open, go get it. But so there's a lot that he's still learning. I mean, here let me put it to you this way as well. You'll like this one. He has 11 touchdown passes this year. 9 of them are to rookie receivers. 9.
Oh wow, yeah.
1 is to a veteran receiver, and it's not Calvin Ridley. It's Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson, yeah. Right.
And 1 is to a defensive tackle. All right. And by the way, if you didn't see Big Jeff yesterday, go find the replay. He creates space in the scramble drill. He high points the football and looks to make sure he gets 2 feet down. It's for a 6'5", 310-pound man, it is poetry.
One of the most athletic things.
Yeah. That's just got to be better than watching J.J. McCarthy gritty on your team.
Oh God, I saw that last night. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So he's there are parts that are getting better. It would help him to have, like Stephon Diggs added to Drake May.
Right.
Maybe AJ
Caleb
Brown.
Williams. Yeah, I don't think AJ's coming back.
That was just a dig at the Titans. That was just a dig at the Titans.
Oh, they should have held him? Yeah, because I know there's talking about people trading him. There's people here who want him back, but I'm like, it's
not happening.
It's not happening at all.
They need to give him a dude. They need to give him a dude.
Yeah.
And and we'll see how much that helps him after that. But if they can continue, I mean, they've run for 310 yards the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
And they got the Chiefs this week without Patrick Mahomes.
I was literally about to say
Minshew Mania.
I was about to say it's what's it, Garner Minshew?
Yeah, Minshew Mania.
Yeah. Mitchell's 3-2 against him all time.
Yeah.
Because they played him with the Jags and with the Colts.
Yep.
There's been a lot of bad football played in that time.
Do they even want to win that game though? Or the game against the Saints? Well, there's 3 teams right now: Raiders, Titans.
You got to build a
Giants.
culture though.
You always want to win.
Yeah.
I know. Look, fans will pine for draft position, and that's fine. You always want to win.
Yeah.
The players work hard, like you say. It's culture. You don't want to make a culture of, well, we got a better draft position. We played them tough this week. I mean, because I say the bar is low.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
They scored 24 points 3 weeks in 3 out of the last 4 weeks. Guys, that is huge progress.
Absolutely.
Huge. And that's why I say I always look at how teams are playing more than winning or losing, right?
Right. Yeah.
And they are playing better. They are playing better. You can watch them now and actually feel like you're watching an NFL team.
Yeah, they're confident.
And not like the Taft High School Rockets from Best of Times with Kurt Russell and Robin Williams.
That's what it looked like for the bulk of at the beginning of the season, for sure. Corey, always good to see you, brother.
Have you
guys seen that movie? I know enough of it from pop culture to know the references, but I don't think I've seen it all the way through.
Oh, you need to see it.
I know.
It's Reno Hightower. Kurt Russell's the quarterback.
Yeah.
They replay a high school game from 20 years earlier.
That sounds awesome.
It's memorable.
On the viewing list, that is for sure. Corey, thank you, brother.
All right, guys, enjoy.
Absolutely, you too. Corey Curtis joining us from Nashville. Lots going on there with the basketball team, and obviously with Diego Pavia, and I loved his response on that, because it's one of those things where it's both. You could celebrate his season, but also want better from him moving forward.
Look, his mentality is great for his play on the football field. It's just, as he mentioned, there's a little bit of growing up to do. I mean, you can't really take that mentality into absolutely everything. There's a time and a place for it. You just keep it on the football field. And one guy we're going to talk about later on this show was great at talking trash on the football field.
Yep, and it kind of dialed back old times there for Phillip Rivers and company, making his return to the NFL. We'll discuss that and more next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, we saw a lot of great non-conference basketball action, including one game when we were talking with both of our friends from Oklahoma City, both Brian Brinkley and Holden Cruzmark. Last week, we were really looking forward to Oklahoma State, because they don't play each other in football anymore. So they had Bedlam both on the women's side and on the men's side, and we were joking because the Thunder hadn't lost a home game so far. The loser of Bedlam would be the first team to lose there at Paycom.
Yeah, and I think Sooner fans were kind of concerned that Oklahoma State was going to get the better of them starting off the season 9-0. But no, I mean, here's the thing about this Oklahoma team, and we've been talking about it all year under Porter Moser. It's been up, it's been down, it's been up, it's been down, and now it's back up again. An 85-76 win in Bedlam. That guy right there, Xavier Brown, dropped 21 points, a huge showing for the Sooners there in honestly a must-win game at this point in the season. I know it's early, but we talked about last week, Porter Moser. There's been some people talking, hey, should he still have his job after this season? And I think this game put some silence to that here for at least a little while.
Yeah, and you mentioned his great game, Xavier Brown's great game. Did it on 6 of 9 from the floor, and this looks to be a guy that they can really rely on moving forward. Knocked down 3 3-pointers, hit all 6 of his free throws, and 1 steal, so he played defense there as well. So I think this is a team that's still finding themselves a little bit, but they have certainly found a good playmaker that, hey, if he could take the charge there for this team, it looks like they can compete there in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think between him, I know they got Mohamed Wagi manning I believe they have him at the 5 position.
Right.
Coming over, he was at Alabama, so he's had some experience in the SEC. So as you move into SEC play starting next month, that might be a guy that you can rely on in the paint. But it's just it brings up an interesting point that I believe our friend Holden Krusmark said last week. The Thunder have just been so good.
Yeah.
That it has overshadowed the Oklahoma men's, women's, and then the Oklahoma State men's and women's basketball programs. And I think this one could be maybe a game you build off of if you're Porter Moser and you're the Sooners, because rivalry wins are always great. We see that in football. It's great momentum boost, but I mean, this is one that could definitely spin things in the right direction for them.
Yeah, this could definitely be one of those games that is a propeller going into the rest of the regular season. They have Kansas City, Stetson, and Mississippi Valley State, and to close out the non-conference part of the schedule. So they can finish out the non-con with a 10-3 record, and as you mentioned, it's a little bit up and down, but a big win over Oklahoma State there. And I just think that they could be rolling into SEC play, at least feeling good about themselves as they step into the league play. And it's Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and Florida to open up the conference.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 wins right there when you look at the non-conference so far. It's this one against Oklahoma State, which is 9-0 coming into the game, and then the shocking one against Wake Forest, beating them by 20 points in the ACC-SEC Challenge.
Yeah, also got a nice win over Marquette earlier in the year, but lost to some of the bigger programs. Gonzaga comes in, and they obviously got that big win there. Gonzaga did, and then Nebraska, who at the time we didn't think was all that good, but they have now proven they're a top 15 team now. They've proven they're really good as well. Arizona State is their other loss as well. So I think 10-3 after the first 13 games in non-conference, Coach Mosley has his team in a really good spot before SEC play continues. We're back here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll talk Phillip Rivers' return to the National Football League next.
Maybe it will, I don't know, inspire or teach, to not to run or be scared of what may or may not happen, Hopefully, certainly I think of my sons and those ball players, that I'm in charge of at the school, that they'll say, like, crap, coach wasn't scared. You know what I mean? It's like, shoot, sometimes there is doubt, and it's real. And again, you can the guaranteed safe bet is to go home or to not go for it, and the other one is, shoot, let's see what happens.
One of the good things about last week was the talk of a 44-year-old grandfather, and it's not using grandfather as a joke, he's an actual grandfather, coming back into the league. When we talked about it, when he first took the flight up there to sign with the practice squad, he's ended up named QB1, going up on the road against one of the best defenses in the National Football League in Seattle. there were a lot of talking points about it, but coming away at the end of it, it made it look like, hey, Phillip Rivers at 44 still has something, and like he said, he wants to be an inspiration.
He's still got it. Like, I know you can look at the stats and say, well, yeah, he threw for 120 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I mean, is that great? Just if you're box score watching, no. But you got to take in all the variables here. He's 44 years old.
Right.
He had a short week of practice. Yep. He flew up on Monday just to have a workout, signed on Tuesday, and then really only had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to practice. And, I mean, Friday had to have been limited because I assume that's when they traveled out to Seattle. So, I mean, you got to talk, I mean, on a short week for him to be able to do what he did. Now, you could definitely say he did look rusty a little bit early.
Sure, yeah.
But, I mean, you got to expect it.
That's to be expected, yeah.
It's his first game in 1,800 days. You can't really expect him to just come out and be like, yeah, you know, I'm still slinging it like I never left.
Right.
But I think as the game went on, he started to get better. And it was just unfortunate in the end that, you know, one of the big keys that I believe, talked about heading into this game was the defense needed to play well and the run game needed to be solid. I thought Jonathan Taylor did really well in the run game, and their backup there, Abdullah, also had a really nice game. Yeah. The defense played so well up until the last drive.
Until the last drive.
And it was just, you had a lead with 40 seconds left.
Right.
And you just couldn't hold it.
Yep. And so, and we were talking about that, like, you know, going into that game. And I know, and this is, I'm not patting myself on the back, but we were talking about just all the factors that went into this. And part of the reason why he said yes is because he felt so comfortable with this offense. And you could tell he felt comfortable going right in there with the offense and being able to play well. My prediction in our little group chat before, I had to go back and look, 17 of 24, 192 yards, a touchdown, interception.
You got me having to go look.
Yeah, and he ended up with one less completion, 3 more attempts. I was off on the yards. I guess 192, he had 120. And then touchdown and interceptions. Touchdown interception is what he had. But it to me showed, like he said there in that soundbite, it showed that the easiest thing to do would have been to not have done anything and just sat at home and just watch this game on television like everybody else. The Colts needed somebody. He stepped in and played really well, and like you said, led him to that game leading field goal,
potentially game-winning drive at the time. But look, I like Riley Leonard. I really do. I think he's going to be a good quarterback someday. I think, honestly, Phillip Rivers at 44 gave the Colts a better chance of winning because it's just so hard for a guy in his first year in the league to go up against a defense like that. And I know it's been 1,800 days since Phillip Rivers has played in the NFL. He, you know, a surefire Hall of Famer, in my opinion. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. He's just going to have to wait another 5 years. But I think the best thing is he's starting next Monday night against the 49ers, so he's going to have a full week of preparation. I would fully expect the Colts to just roll with him the rest of the way. It would be a great story if they somehow made the playoffs. I don't know. It's going to be a little bit of a long shot now just based on looking at the schedule. You still got the 49ers, as I mentioned, on Monday. And then looking forward ahead of that, I think they play the Jags again, and the Jags are leading the AFC South. So it's going to be a tough test. But let me tell you what. I was inspired by that performance yesterday. I was inspired that he even, suited up. He took that first hit like a champ, and he got right back up. He said in his post game, he kind of missed that. It was kind of crazy. But just in case there is any college baseball coaches watching, I still have 3 years of eligibility remaining. I only burned 1 year in D3, and look at that middle line. I'll play for $5 in NIL. That is super cheap. You don't got to worry about spending all your money in one spot. And, I might still throw hard, but who knows at this point? I just don't know. I think of Roy Hobbs from The Natural, that movie, maybe, I'm not as old as Roy was at that point, but, maybe I still got something left in the tank. I've been working out. I got to start throwing bullpens again. I mean, maybe I just don't even look at college and I look at the MLB since my Mets have nobody right now. But no, I was inspired. Maybe I'll go sign up for the Men's Sunday League here next year. But no, all jokes aside, it was an inspiring performance for I mean, anybody that, hey, age is just a number. You can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, but he certainly provided that motivation. We saw it throughout the week, and now he can go and tell his team, hey, look, if for those of you that don't keep up with football down here, he plays in probably the hardest region down here with the most talented football teams in that region, and he was able to get it done.